The Xorret Cati is a brutal beast tamed today by Primoz Roglic in the 2023 Vuelta España. The Slovenian won the stage over Remco Evenepoel, who said some interesting things afterwards that I'll get to later. In the red jersey battle, well, Lenny Martinez, the Frenchman, was distanced. Sepp Kuss put in some massive attacks that made sure he went into the red jersey lead. It was Jumbo-Visma over Remco Evenepoel in our 3-week Camino around Spain that will end in Madrid. 30 riders went free in today's stage, 165 kilometers that started on the coast in Denia, where many of the teams hold team training camps in the wintertime. Remco Evenepoel has his second home there. 165 4-categorized climbs before we got to this final beast over my right-hand shoulder. 30 riders went free. Teams with multiple riders not represented in that 30-rider group was Jumbo-Visma and Soudal Quick-Step, the two powerful teams in this 2023 edition. But crucially, Lotto Destiny had 4 riders in the move. Bahrain Victorious had 2 riders, Movistar had 2 riders, EF had 2 riders, and BH Burgos had 2 riders. That group would fight for the win today, but as we all know, it was unsuccessful. Bahrain Victorious was launching attacks after attacks, particularly Caruso, Tiberi, Caruso, fighting for most of the day. It was Tiberi doing the muscle work for Caruso. Back behind in the peloton, you could tell Jumbo-Visma was up to something today. They were putting the lemon squeezer on the rest of the peloton. It was Robert Kessing doing so much work today, working hard. Only Dylan van Baarle and Wilco Kilderman gave him some relief. You could tell they were taking matters in their own hands. They have 3-time winner Primoz Roglic in the ranks. Also 2-time Tour de France winner Jonas Vingegaard trying to win the race as well. And Sepp Kuss, who was hoping to get the red jersey by the end of the day. Sitting behind Jumbo-Visma working all day was the team of race leader Lenny Martinez, Groupama FDJ. They were letting Jumbo-Visma do all the work, and they should have. Up front, the escape was getting whittled down to 4 crucial men. Davide Caruso, Kroon, who won second stage in the Vuelta España, Andreas Kroon, the Danish rider, Lyseco, the Spanish champion, and former world champion Rui Costa. It was important Lotto Destiny got a rider up in the move because today, unfortunately, they're having the funeral of the former under-23 Paris-Roubaix winner De Decker, who died in a training incident in the last week. Their chances, however, were not going to be successful. Jumbo-Visma was putting on the pressure, not so much to catch the escape, but thinking about how they could crack Remco Evenepoel, starting this final climb. Now let's take a few things in stock because the final climb, 4 kilometers long, so steep, averaging 11% with hard pitches of 22% in the middle section and leaving at the top around 3,100 meters remaining, a downhill and then a little uphill kicker of about 1 kilometer here to the finish line. Attila Valter, the Hungarian champion, led the Jumbo-Visma team into the final climb. 4 riders there with Vingegaard, with Roglic, and Sepp Kuss. Moss was there for Movistar with Soler, Ayuso, and a dangling João Almeida. The escapees were getting caught. The gap was going down. We saw Remco accelerate a little bit, staying in the saddle, but that was really the precursor for the Sepp Kuss attack. He attacked on the hardest gradients of this climb. He didn't need to so much to distance Lenny Martinez, who was already out the back, but he was going perhaps for the stage win and more importantly to try to crack Remco Evenepoel. He was riding on the front, back behind. Remco Evenepoel was doing the chasing with Ving and Rog right on his wheel. As too was Moss, as too was Ayuso, and the other riders I already named. On the steepest bit of the climb, it was always Kuss up front and it was always Remco doing the chase. We were kind of waiting for a Ving or a Rog to launch out and really put the nail in the coffin of Remco Evenepoel, but they didn't do so, or perhaps they were unable to. Kuss was eventually brought back by a steady riding of Remco Evenepoel, and we were near the top. There were still meters to climb to the top of the climb, the Xorret Cati, but they were easier climbing meters and not really the space for Roglic or Vingegaard to launch their attack. And it was still Remco over the top, in front, and crucially in front for the technical downhill. We drove the climb, we drove the descent, and it looked sketchy in some parts, so Remco Evenepoel played it smart on the downhill. Rog and Ving in as well, getting position perhaps to overtake him for the finish line. Keep in mind there are 10, 6, 4 bonus seconds on the finish line. Remco riding at the front downhill and then in the uphill, and then you could see Rog was getting ready to do the thing that he does best, pounce. He pounces, he gains bonus seconds, and those bonus seconds always added up in his general classification wins over the last few years in the Vuelta España, also in the smaller stage races that he's conquered, the Slovenian. And today, you move around the left-hand side, I think it was, took the sprint victory over Remco Evenepoel to reign supreme. And as Primoz said after the stage finish, he said, anytime you win, it's always great. You never know when it's going to be the last time. Primoz is getting up there in the years. So he's wise and he understands the importance of every stage victory. And he was celebrating, throwing his hands up with Vingegaard, with Sepp Kuss, because Sepp Kuss today put on the red jersey, became the first American to lead the Vuelta España since Chris Horner won the whole race back in 2013. Sepp Kuss in the red, leader's yellow jersey, already won 2 stages in this race, a stage in the Tour de France as well. Sepp Kuss is really adding to his palmars with this ride today. Now, I told you at the top of the show that I would have some information on Remco Evenepoel, because over the line, he was radioing in his team, two-way communication, clearly upset. Then he got over here to the finish barriers, was leaning over them, thinking to himself, then threw down what I think was his water bottle, upset. I was wondering why. He seemed to ride a good race, always on the front, didn't crack under the Jumbo pressure, and finished second on the stage, and is still, by my calculation, I think the virtual GC leader out of those guys with Ving and Rog and the others, including Mas and Ayuso, over behind the podium. He did speak with the press and he told us he was upset because he did not know the escape had been caught. Remco, how did you not know the escape had not been caught? It was your responsibility. And in fact, he said maybe the DSs had told him over the race radio, he didn't hear it, and ultimately it's his responsibility. And yes, I agree, Remco, you should have known. It's crazy that he didn't know that with the Jumbo-Visma voice setting up for the sprint victory today. But Remco Evenepoel, we'll take your word on it, you didn't know, but still you should have tried to been aware and go for the sprint regardless and get it over Roglic and let the UCI commissioners sort out the stage win and the classification bonus seconds afterwards. Instead, it was Jumbo-Visma really taking the glory today. Sepp Kuss now leads with 43 seconds over Marc Soler, and Lenny Martinez held on to third overall, back at 1 minute. And if we're looking at the virtual GC classification lead, the guys who could potentially win this race when we reach Madrid at the end of our Camino, well, it's Remco Evenepoel at 2:31, 7 seconds ahead of Primoz Roglic. Primoz moved up today with those bony seconds. He gained 4 over Remco because Remco got 6 seconds in bony. Remco is now 7 seconds ahead of Primoz, and back there is Jonas Vingegaard at 2:42, so 11 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel. Then we see Mas and Ayuso in this Vuelta España general classification standings at the end of stage 8. From bad to worse, if today was nasty, stage 9 will be longer and harder with potentially terrible weather. But never mind that for now, because it's Primoz Roglic who tamed the Xorret Cati beast in the 2023 Vuelta España.